welcome to Legends of Jazz. It's good to see you. No one is sure who was the very first jazz pianist, but Jelly Roll Morton was certainly there at the beginning. So was Fats Waller, who built up the stride piano style to create a more modern sound, influencing players like Art Tatum, who became one of the greatest, most technically gifted jazz pianists of all time. Next came the swing years, defined by such giants as the one, the only Count Basie, the great Teddy Wilson, and the legendary Duke Ellington. Bebop years saw the arrival of incredible technicians like Bud Powell, Oscar Peterson, and Thelonious Monk. Their impact and influence on jazz went far beyond the piano and inspired innovators like Bill Evans and McCoy Tyner to create schools of jazz piano all their own. Then there are today's living legends like Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, and Keith Jarrett. We are proud to have with us two more true piano masters, the incomparable Dave Brubeck and the one and only Billy Taylor, Dr. Billy Taylor. Dave, Bill. Now, Dave, you were the first jazz musician to make the cover of Time magazine. How did that feel?
Scary. The terrible thing about it is I have admired Duke Ellington so long, and they were doing a story on both of us, and I was praying that his would come out first, because I had no business being ahead of Duke. We were on tour together, and there was a knock on my door, 7 o'clock in the morning. Open the door, and there's Duke. He hands me Time magazine, and he says, "Dave, you're on the cover."
Of course, probably not only your performance, but the fact that you had sold 1 million albums might have had something to do with it. But I heard early on, weren't you working a cattle ranch? Or were you going to be, did you plan to be a musician right off the bat?
No. Well, in our family, you were a musician very young. But my dad said, "You're the last of my 3 sons. You're going to stay here and help me on the ranch."
Did you?
No.
Okay. Let's talk about East Coast, West Coast jazz.
Well, I was so happy in San Francisco because my friends were all from there. And we didn't know that we were inventing cool jazz. We were just playing. We didn't say we're the cool jazz musicians. The critics said that.
When you released the record, Time Out, that really went over the top for you. Talk about making that record, featuring unusual time signatures.
I wanted to do an album that got away from the marching beat of 4/4. And I said to myself, why should jazz be such a simple beat? When it comes from Africa, these people are playing in the most complex time signatures. And I wanted to do that. Columbia Records didn't want to put it out.
Really, why?
Well, you can't have a painting on the cover of a jazz album. You can't have all originals on one album. And you can't have all these crazy tempos that you're playing in that no one can dance to. So they stopped the album for quite a while, except the president of Columbia was a musician, and he believed in Take Five and Blue Rondo, and he fought his own company till the record came out.
Thank God for that.
You know,
You feel like playing the piano for us?
you bet.
I was hoping you'd say that. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Brubeck. What's the name of the piece?
That was Someday My Prince Will Come.
Walt Disney. Billy Taylor, my goodness. Musician, educator, PhD, author, broadcaster, Peabody, an Emmy Award winner, and I probably left out about 10 or 12. Couldn't find out what you really wanted to do? Or?
Well, I had to try a lot of things, you know, to see what would work out.
Well, you were a master at all.
Well, I went right back to the first thing that I always did, which was play the piano. So,
Talk about the early days when you left Virginia and you went to New York City, Minton's.
yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I was very lucky. I went to New York on a Friday night and went to Minton's, and in those days you could jam. I sat around all night waiting for my turn to play because there were a lot of piano players who wanted to play too. I look up and one of my idols, Ben Webster, was in. I said, oh, wow, I really wanted to play now, but the band is, I mean, everybody's around. I get an 8-bar here and an 8-bar there, something. So he kept getting closer and closer to the piano, and he came over and kind of looked over my shoulder. And so after the set, he said, I didn't really get to hear very much of what you. Why don't you come down to my club? I like what I heard. So, because I told him had just come in town. And he said, I'll give you an audition, see what you. So the third night I was in town, I had a job working on 52nd Street.
Amazing. Now, that's a first for New York City.
Really?
You played a lot of places in those early days, and you were the house pianist at Birdland?
Yeah, that was a wonderful experience. I got to play literally with everybody that I ever wanted to play with. I mean, that was the place of choice for jazz musicians at that time. And so I got to play opposite Ellington, opposite Basie. My first job there at Birdland was with Charlie Parker and strings, and I had never worked with Bird. I'd jammed with him, but I mean, it was just, you know, I thought I died and gone to heaven. I mean, everything was just wonderful. Really.
That's the way to go to New York. So there must have been some early influences in your playing.
Oh yeah, well, the biggest influence on me was Art Tatum. I mean, my uncle Robert played an Art Tatum record. You know, I wanted to know who those two guys were.
Right. Art and Tatum.
Yeah, really, because I had never heard anyone play that cleanly and play all of the things that were going on at that time. So I wanted to play like that. Actually, the first job I got on 52nd Street, working with Ben Webster, opposite Art Tatum. Tatum was the headliner of that show. So I asked Art when I got to know him a little bit. I said, "How was that first night when I was playing?" He said, "It was fast." It's the best thing you can say about it.
Jazz musicians use just about any song to improvise, but there's also the old standards. You and I have done some jobs together, and you always pull out those old gems, and you come up with a new approach to it. Give us a demonstration.
Okay.
Billy Taylor, ladies and gentlemen. It's all yours. Dr. Bill. Beautiful. Wonderful. A master class, my man.
Thank you.
All the things you that was great. Well, we just happen to have a second piano. Can we make best use of that? Would you?
I think we can try.
What are you going to play?
Both of us are big Ellington fans, and his theme song, which is written by Billy Strayhorn, is just one of my favorites.
Well, this is something special now, ladies and gentlemen. A two-piano version of Billy Strayhorn's "Take the A Train." Dave Brubeck, Billy Taylor. my goodness. Do you guys mind playing the theme out with me? I don't want to play it by myself.
Sure. What are we going to do, though?
Well, it's a secret.
Okay.
You know how jazz is. We'll just make it up as we go.
There you go.
Okay. Billy Taylor, Dave Brubeck. Thank you. Hello. How are you today? It's good to see you. Welcome to Legends of Jazz. I'm Ramsey Lewis. The blues, born in the South from the spirituals and work songs, the blood and the tears of African slaves, the blues lies at the root of just about all American music. This much is true. Without the blues, there would be no jazz. W.C. Handy came out of Memphis and brought the blues to mainstream American music. In 1917, the first jazz record ever made was, in fact, a blues song, Livery Stable Blues by the original Dixieland Jazz Band. Many artists kept one foot in the blues and the other in jazz. Like Bessie Smith, the Empress of the Blues. And Sippy Wallace, Ma Rainey, and of course, Alberta Hunter. Then came Robert Johnson, a giant figure in music who influenced everything from blues to rock to jazz. And Lady Day, the great Billie Holiday. She could sing the blues, but she was also one of the great jazz divas. The big band sound drew heavily from the blues. Just listen, well, to Duke Ellington or Count Basie. In the 40s and 50s, a crop of blues masters arose in Chicago and Detroit, like Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, Willie Dixon, and John Lee Hooker. The blues kept moving in new directions due to artists like Ray Charles, B.B. King, and Joe Williams. And so many other jazz greats like Miles Davis, Horace Silver, Cannonball Adderley, Sonny Stitt, Hank Crawford proved the never-ending influence of blues on the jazz world. With us in the studio are two blues artists who are credited with, well, actually revitalizing the genre and introducing the blues to a whole new audience. Grammy Award winners Robert Craig, Keb Mo, welcome to our show. Glad to be here. Good to be here. Good to have you here. So here we are, two blues musicians on a show called Legends of Jazz. All right, let me start by asking both of you, what do you think jazz has taken from the blues and vice versa?
Well, I think that jazz has taken the roots from the blues. I've always heard it said that in order to play jazz, you have to be able to play blues.
What do you
Yeah, I
say?
think blues informs you emotionally, and jazz is more intellectual, but the blues brings you back to the heart.
You playing what you feel.
Yeah, you're playing what you feel.
There's another common denominator I'd like to throw in the ring. What about improvisation?
There's a style of improvisation that make it jazz and a certain style of improvising that make it blues.
There's a borderline in there, you know?
The two, kind of like the sister and a brother, like, separated at birth, I guess maybe.
I listen to a lot of jazz. So there's a lot of blues in it, And it makes it accessible for somebody like me to grab a hold and get a start.
Kevin Moe, multiple Grammy winner, musician, producer, writer. Talk about your music. How'd you get started?
I started on the trumpet in the 5th grade, and then I got kicked out of the band for playing trumpet. I got kicked out, and then I got a guitar. Yeah.
And then they didn't kick you out when you...
They couldn't kick me out because they didn't have a guitar in the band anyway, so I was on my own. So, and then I played steel drums most of my teenage life, from 12 to 18, calypso music. And I played,
So where did you pick up calypso music from?
Well, I lived in Compton, and the only guy that had been taught by the people from Trinidad to make steel drums lived on my block.
Okay.
And then he taught me calypso, and I learned how to play all the steel drums, and I learned how to play the timbales and the bongos and everything else they had laying around.
So you didn't start out in the blues. And when did blues grab you and say, here's the way I'm going?
Blues, I came to the blues very late. I had no identity as a musician early on. I came to the blues in my mid-30s, really. I was playing, and I had a record out called Rainmaker, which is on Casablanca, and it flopped. It sold dozens of copies.
Dozens?
Dozens of
It
copies.
went aluminum, huh?
Went paper. Yeah, so after that, pretty much that career was over.
Uh-huh.
And I started completely from scratch, and I evolved, started with BB, and I started going back till I ended up at people like Mississippi Fred McDowell, Robert Johnson, and the old real gut bucket.
You've obviously studied the roots of blues, and because you've referred to some of those artists.
Yeah,
Why is that music special to you?
Because there's no pretense in the blues. And when I heard Big Bill Broonzy play, and those guys in that, all I heard was a guy sitting out after he had picked cotton all day, playing some music because he didn't have no radio and going to dancing. There was no Hollywood. There was no big city in it. It was all just raw, this is what's going on. Mm-hmm. And I was very much moved by that because I hadn't really ever thought like that. I hadn't really looked at music like that. I only looked at it like, how can I get some money? Where's my next gig coming from? What can I play to make me some money? And I kept thinking about that. And that never worked. It was always when I was truly inspired, things would happen.
Robert Johnson, King of the Delta Blues.
Yes, sir.
Means a lot to you.
Yes, sir.
Why?
I don't really know why. But there's something, maybe it's because he died young. He's like the Marilyn Monroe of the blues or something. I don't know. He died young and he never got old. But there's something about Robert Johnson's music that inspires the blues and music in a way that no one else does. And when I listen to him, I hear that. I hear a call.
Do you feel something coming on?
Yes, sir, I do feel something coming
We'd
on.
love to hear you play for us. Would you play for us?
I'm going to play Robert Johnson. So I'm going
Okay.
to play one of his songs, one of my favorites of his. It's called Love in Vain.
Kevin Moe, ladies and gentlemen, let him hear it. Love in Vain.
All right.
And I followed her to the station with a suitcase in my hand. Well, I followed that girl down to the station with a suitcase in my hand. You know it's hard to tell when all your love's in vain, all my love's in vain. And the train rolled into the station. I looked her in the eye. Well, Lord, the train rolled into the station. I looked that girl straight in the eye. You know, I felt so lonesome, I felt so lonesome, and all I could do was cry. All my love's in vain. And the train left the station. There were 2 lights on behind. Well, the train left the station. 2 lights on behind. You know the blue line was my blues, and the red light it was my mind. All my love's in vain. Oh, well, it made my, oh, Willie Mae. You know it's hard to tell, it's hard to tell, when all your love's in vain, all my love's in vain. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful. Robert Cray, my goodness, another multiple Grammy winner. You've got 5 of them.
5.
Yeah. What first brought you to music?
Well, my parents had great music, and it included people like Ray Charles, to Sonny Stitt, to John Lee Hooker, to Bobby Bland, to Sam Cooke. When I was 15, 16 years old, the blues thing started happening with a bunch of my guitar playing buddies. And these cats were listening to Buddy Guy and B.B. King and Magic Sam and Howlin' Wolf. You know, a guy by the name of Muddy Waters. These cats were the coolest cats in the world. So we became immersed in this kind of music. And in 1969, I got an opportunity to see one of my favorites, Albert Collins, play guitar.
And you were still in high school.
Our
Goodness.
class voted him in. He'd been playing a lot around the area. And I fortunately had the opportunity to walk up to Albert after the show and said, thank you for coming to our school and, you know, playing for high school graduate. He says, young man, you play guitar? I said, yes. He said, well, keep it up. That was 1971. 1976, we were playing together as his backup band.
Oh, really?
With Albert.
You were in heaven.
Yeah. We did an album together here in Chicago. It's called Showdown, with Albert Collins and Johnny Copeland. And I was a young guy, of course. Johnny and Albert had known one another since their days back in Houston in the 50s. We just went in and we did this session.
Really?
And did the record in a couple nights, you know.
And didn't that album win a Grammy? Or
that album won a Grammy, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some of the greatest music was on-the-spot music. We talk about Miles Davis's Kind of Blue album. He came to the session with just some sketches of the songs.
You know, the formulas don't always work. It's when you come in with the intentions of just playing out of your soul and just being there in the moment.
Right.
I think that's kind of a metaphor that goes beyond music, it goes to life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to let things happen.
Wise words.
Teaches you that, you know?
Do you feel like playing the guitar?
Yeah, I can play guitar a little
You
bit.
feel like it? What's on your mind?
We're gonna do My Last Regret.
Robert Cray, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'll be free. One last time, you'll have your hooks in me, 'cause I'm about to lose it, my force of habit. I wanna see you burn all the way down. I wanna see your ashes all over the ground. That I will know that I can't forget about my last regret. The price is too high for what you're giving, so I'll stop being the fool, go on living. One is not enough, two is too much for me. I wanna see you burn all the way down. I wanna see your ashes all over the ground. Then I will know that I can't forget about my last regret. No more suffering, no more sorrow. Live for today, I'll be here tomorrow. See you burn all the way down. I wanna see your ashes all over the ground. Then I'll know that I can't forget about my last regret. Suffering, no more sorrow. Live for today, I'll be here tomorrow. My regret, my regret. My regret.
Man, thank you. Beautiful. People refer to you all as the saviors of the blues. You think the blues needs saving?
I don't think the blues needs saving. I think the blues gonna holds up on its own just fine.
You feel the same way?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you know, we play the music because we love it, you know.
It would be terrible to have both of you all and you not play together, would you?
Well, I'd be delighted.
What do you want to play, though?
We're gonna go back and do a song that Elmore James recorded. It's called The 12-Year-Old Boy.
Robert Craig, Gitmo. All right, all right.
Go. Go.
I feel bad, I feel terrible. I'm just as sad as a man can be. I feel bad, I feel terrible. I'm just as sad as a man can be. I let a boy 12 years old take my baby away from me.
would hang around my crib. Yeah, all hours of the night, yeah. I never dreamed. Him and my woman was so tight. Now wait a minute.
Should have did. Well, if the young boy hangs around you, you ought to do like I should have did. And you know, you send them on over to your neighbors and hope your neighbors like his. Go ahead, Kevin.
It'll never be the same. How you doing, man? It's great. We have a theme song. I'd love for you to join me in the theme. Would you do that?
That'd be right.
Put a little blues on the thing.
All right.
Let me move over here to the piano.
Okay.
All right. to Legends of Jazz. From the 1930s to the 1950s, American songwriters created an unequaled body of work called the American Songbook. Many of these tunes have become our standards, linked forever to pop and jazz singers who continue to give them life. Like Ella Fitzgerald's performance of Like Someone in Love by the great Jimmy Van Heusen. And Billie Holiday's aching rendition of God Bless the Child by Arthur Herzog.
God bless the child that's got his own blue skies smiling at me.
Or Donna Washington's wonderful version of Irving Berlin's Blue Skies. There was Sarah Vaughan's beautiful interpretation of Harold Arlen's Over the Rainbow.
Over the rainbow.
And Nat King Cole, his own special treatment of another Arlen classic,
Night and day, you are the one.
Frank Sinatra gave us a timeless rendition of Cole Porter's Night and Day.
Beneath the moon or under the sun.
Tony Bennett made Richard Rodgers' I've Got the World on a String one of his all-time classics.
I've got the world on a string. I'm sitting on a rainbow.
While Peggy Lee did the same for Richard Rodgers' The Lady is a Tramp. We're happy to have with us today two fantastic young singers who are really keeping alive the great tradition of interpreting classics from the American Songbook. Ladies and gentlemen, Jane Monheit and John Pizzarelli. Welcome to the show. Welcome, 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 welcome. This is something for both of you. You've noticed we've seen a huge increase in recordings and performances by artists now from the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, songs from that area. We're calling it the American Songbook. Even artists that usually don't record those songs, like Bette Midler, Rod Stewart, Queen Latifah. Why?
I mean, number one, the melodies are incredibly strong. There are so many different things that can be done with these pieces of music, so many ways to interpret them. And the lyrics discuss things that are eternal, love and loss, and things that are appropriate to every generation, things that everyone can understand.
And I think that the songs are pliable. So from generation to generation, whether it's you and me or Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong, everybody can sing all of me, and it's always different. And
they invite your interpretation.
Yeah,
right.
That's what they're meant for.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, as Rosemary Clooney said to my wife, who's a singer also, and we've all been together on gigs. And at the end of the night, she said to Rosemary, "Well, what should we do? Any advice?" And she says, "Just keep telling the truth, because everybody knows the difference."
Mm-hmm. I like that. You heard the truth in your house early on.
It was beaten into me as a child, or there was no dinner.
What was that like?
Well, we had a good household. My father's a guitar player, Bucky Pizzarelli,
yeah.
and he worked with everybody, from out of the war, working with Vaughn Monroe's orchestra, and then with Benny Goodman and Stefan Grappelli and Les Paul and Zoot Sims, and a lot of these people came over to the house, and it was great to experience that. And the reason I liked playing this music was because the guys who were around my dad were having so much fun doing it. I was like, well, if I wanted to be friends with these guys, I better learn Honeysuckle Rose.
Indeed. Besides your dad, who were some of your major influences?
I as a singer, Nat King Cole was the beginning and the end for me. And then, but I also like Kenny Rankin and Michael Franks, Sinatra and Tony Bennett. But Nat Cole was the guy who, sort of that whole repertoire, Paper Moon and Straighten 'Em Fly Right, Route 66, and those kind of rhythm songs were the foundation for me.
You mentioned Frank Sinatra. You worked with Frank Sinatra.
I had the opportunity to open for Frank Sinatra in about 18 concerts. The short story is basically that I was led to his room. He came out, he looked at me, I sort of looked at him. I said, "It's nice to meet you." And then he looked at me and said, "Eat something, you look bad."
That was the first?
That was the first and last thing. Yes, he understood that. It was all about pasta.
Definitely.
You draw from all kinds of music, all kinds of writers, Nat King Cole, the Bossa Nova, the Beatles. So what's the common denominator? What do you look for that draws all that together?
Well, you know, the thing is, I look at the style of music that I do, which a lot of people say, oh, well, this is old music. To me, it's a style of music. It's not about a certain period of time. It's a way that music is presented. You can take the songs that you like I like the Beatles, and treat them as if they were standard songs written in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, and put them in that style. So I like to present, when I find newer songs, and I want to put them in the shoes of the Great American Songbook, I think about, well, what if actually Lennon and McCartney were, Schwartz and Dietz? How would that song sound?
Indeed. We'd like to hear John Pizzarelli, in fact, do his thing. You in the mood for that?
I am totally in the mood for
Well, let's do it.
Three, four.
I got rhythm, I got music, I got my gal who could ask for anything more. I got daisies in green pastures, I got my gal who could ask for anything more. Old man Trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him at my door. I got starlight, I got sweet dreams, I got my gal who could ask for anything more, who could ask for anything more. Well, old man Trouble, I don't mind him. You won't find him at my door. Well, I got rhythm, I got music, I got my gal who could ask for anything more. Who could ask for anything more?
And that's the ballad.
You know what? You know what you were doing out there?
Well, we did I Got Rhythm, classic rhythm changes, and my brother Martin Pizzarelli was the bass player, my partner in crime, has worked with me now. We actually slept together, so that's how we got the gig. Well, that was years ago, but being my brother, that we had one bed in the house.
Jane Monheit, how did it all begin?
Well, you know, I was lucky enough to grow up in a really musical family, so this has just been my life since the beginning. Jazz and really a lot of other kinds of music too. I've just always been a singer.
Feels good.
Yes, it does.
Felt good to be a finalist in the Thelonious Monk competition.
Definitely did. You know.
Really? Did you decide you wanted to do that, or somebody say, you know, you should get in that competition?
Actually, a number of my professors in college mentioned it to me, and I didn't even know what it was. I was a senior in college and was starting to get ready to, you know, really pursue a career rather than just, you know, the restaurant gigs and the weddings and the things that I was doing to, you know, support myself. And yeah, I made a tape and entered and actually didn't make the semifinals at first. I was totally rejected and got a call a couple weeks later saying, you know, we decided we're going to bring 2 extra people in and we want you to come. And
See? You
And
just
then-
can't keep talent down.
Yeah, well, there's a different set of judges for the second part. So I guess the first batch, but the second batch liked me, so it was okay.
Talk about your influences. Who were they?
Well, first and foremost, certainly Ella Fitzgerald and Judy Garland. When I was a child.
Ella Fitzgerald and Judy Garland.
I know. But the thing is when I was little, I grew up on mostly jazz and great musical theater, and especially like the old MGM films and things. And my father was a bluegrass musician, but that's a whole other side of everything. But so I grew up sort of with equal parts, Ella worship and Judy worship, and I hear them both in me every day when I sing.
What do you look for when you're choosing a song?
Well, it has to be something that, gives me a strong emotional reaction. I like songs that drive me crazy. I like
Drives you
songs that
crazy.
make me feel like I need to sing them. I like songs that make me start crying or laughing when I'm singing them. I like songs that really do something to me. And, sometimes I just, pick things that I feel are really well suited to my band, something that'll feature a certain member in a certain way. But mostly it's about the lyric being truthful and, about that gut thing. Yeah.
We'd love to hear you sing. Would you sing for us now?
Oh, of course.
Well, what will you sing?
Well, we're going to do an arrangement of I Should Care by my pianist Michael Kanan that we've been enjoying for the last couple of years, and we haven't been able to play it for a whole lot of people yet, so it'll be
I
great
Should
to have a
Care.
chance to do it today.
From the American Songbook,
Sammy Kahn.
Sammy Kahn. Jane Monheit.
I should care. I should go around weeping. I should care. I should go without sleeping. Strangely enough, I sleep well, except for a dream or two. But then I count my sheep well. Funny how sheep can't lull you to sleep, but I should care. I shouldn't let it upset me. I should care, but it just doesn't get me. Maybe I won't find someone as lovely as you. So I should care, and I do. I should go around weeping. I should care. I should go without sleeping. Strangely enough, I sleep well, except for a dream or two. But then I can't get my sheep well. Funny how sheep can't lull you to sleep, but I should care. should let it upset me. I should care, but it just doesn't get me. Maybe I won't find someone as lovely as you, so I should care, and I do.
Thank you.
Wonderful,
Wonderful, wonderful.
Beautiful. That was so wonderful.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Great.
So, the American Songbook, we talked about the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. Does it stop there, or do you think there are songs that are being written now that we'll look back on and it'll continue the American Songbook?
I definitely do. I think there are many incredible composers that have added so many incredible songs to the repertoire. You know, Stevie Wonder, Carole King, Joni Mitchell, Billy Joel. I mean, there's so many people and so many songs that I really love. And Burt Bacharach, Stephen Sondheim, you know, the list goes on and on.
What do you feel about this, John?
Well, you know, those songs from the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s came out of show, they were like show songs. And now we find there's less show music and more about artists, songwriters, singer-songwriters who are writing these songs. And when you try and go and find them, like you mentioned Joni Mitchell, and I like Don Henley and Billy Joel and James Taylor, and maybe there's one or two that'll work within the style that we like to sing in. So it's still moving. It's how to take them and translate them into what we like to do.
I've noticed since we've been here taping the show and rehearsing, you guys emote very well together. Do you perform a lot together?
We've worked a number of places together. We've run into each other on the road. It's fun that way when you end up, you know, sometimes I get places and they say, Jane's there. And oh, so it's great, you know.
Yeah, it's cool. You know, the funny thing about jazz, the great thing about jazz is, you know, you make all these friends and you just run into people all over the world. It's just a beautiful thing.
We'd like to experience this beautiful thing of you guys playing music together.
We can do that.
Would you do that?
We sure can.
What would you do?
Well, I'm thinking a little more Gershwin.
Gershwin's great.
Gershwin will work.
We call it The Way You Wear Your Hat. You call it They Can't Take That Away From Me.
John Pizzarelli, Jane Monheit, ladies and gentlemen.
Our romance won't end on a sorrowful note, though by tomorrow you're gone. The song is ended, but as the songwriter wrote, the melody lingers on. They may take you from me, I'll miss your fond caress, but though they take you from me, I'll still possess the way you wear your hair, the way you sip your tea, the memory of all that. No, no, they can't take that away from me. The way you smile just beams, the way you sing off key, the way you haunt my dreams. No, no, oh, they can't take that away from me. We may never meet again on that bumpy road to love. Still, I always keep the memory of the way you hold your night, the way we danced till 3, the way you changed my life. No, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away from me. to love. Still I always, always keep the memory of the way you hold your knife, the way we dance till 3, the way you changed my life. No, no, they can't take that away from me. No, they can't take that away. No, boo-boo, they can't take that away from me. They can't take that away from me.
Beautiful, beautiful, wonderful. You all do so well together. You better go on the road together.
Come on.
Hey, I'm going to play the theme song. Would you join me?
We're in.
And do it?
You
We
betcha.
can sort of jam on out.
You got it.
All right.
Let's do it.
Marvelous. Marvelous, marvelous. Hi, I'm Ramsey Lewis, and welcome to Legends of Jazz. To most Americans in the 1930s, Latin music meant Cuban bandleader Xavier Cugat. But in 1941, a Cuban musician named Mario Bauza and the legendary bandleader Machito broke new ground, blending traditional Latin music with jazz for the first time. Things really got moving when Dizzy Gillespie fell in love with Latin and joined forces with Cuban percussionist Chano Pozo. That meeting changed jazz history. By the 1950s, arranger-composers like Chico O'Farrell and Perez Prado had a major impact on the big band sound. Soon, Latin jazz superstars were emerging, like the great Tito Puente, and those who followed him, Mongo Santa Maria, Ray Barreto, and Willie Bobo. In the 70s, a big noise was made by the Cuban group Ira Quere. It spawned many of today's top Latin stars like Paquito de Rivera and Arturo Sandoval. We're fortunate to have with us two of the top musicians in Latin jazz today, the brilliant pianist Eddie Palmieri and the great flautist Dave Valentin. There's Latin music from Puerto Rico, there's Afro-Cuban music, there's music coming from all around the Caribbean and South America. What is Latin jazz?
The phenomena, I would say, started definitely in the late 40s when Mario Bauza, the the musical director of the Machito Orchestra, introduces Chano Pozo to Mr. Dizzy Gillespie.
That was magic.
It was amazing how one percussionist could change the whole characteristics of a jazz orchestra. It was quite amazing.
Was that a lot of energy in those days?
That was the height of the mambo era.
People were dancing?
Yeah, they had the mambo, the cha-cha-cha. They went as far as Hollywood. It was the maximum promotion of our genre that we've ever had.
Wow. You know what I like about Latin jazz, if you will? It's art music. You play it, people sit down and listen to it. But the same music, they get up and dance to it.
You know, people come to sit down to see the show, but eventually they just start to move and they want to get up and dance.
If they come to a concert, they're going to dance on the aisles.
Right, indeed. Now, your music was fusion music before the word even came around, because you involve all kinds of rhythms and influences.
Well, I was raised in the Bronx. And my brother Charlie Palmieri, which was 9 years older, was the one that would bring home the records that I would hear from the orchestras that were, from the, let's say the big orchestras, even from Glenn Miller to the AC band, and, but also the orchestras that were playing Latin music in New York at that time. So when I was growing up, I heard all this. And that certainly gave a lot of influence to myself later on as I started to play professionally.
You know, I was born in the South Bronx, and our building, everybody had Italians, Jews, Puerto Ricans, all kind of people, Greeks. But my next door neighbor, he used to be playing Miles Davis and Coltrane, you know, and Dinah Washington and Billie Holiday. And I was exposed to that. And he'd come to my house and he would hear, you know, El que se fue no hace falta, you know, Peter Rodriguez, Machito. And that's where it really started to make sense to me.
So that was all because of the neighborhood you grew up in?
Yeah, yeah.
Talk about the Palladium. What was that like?
I started in the Palladium in 1955. I went into the Palladium with Vicentico Valdez. Vicentico Valdez was the Cuban singer that was singing with Tito Puente at that time.
And by the way, I was only 4 years old.
But I'm really essentially a dance orchestra leader. And that's why the Palladium Ballroom, when we played there, you had the greatest dancers of the genre going one-on-one with the orchestra. And it was quite an incredible evenings there, because then after that came a Tito Puente, let's say, to follow, or the Machito Orchestra, or the Tito Rodriguez Orchestra. And it was that kind of a bandstand one-on-one battle, so to speak. You know?
Lots of rhythm going on here.
Oh.
You've known a lot of named people and played with people.
Well, it started with the different orchestras, and then I went from Vicentico to Tito Rodriguez, who also had a fine orchestra conjunto. And then by 1961, I formed my own orchestra. And since then, it's been variations of different orchestras that I've had, with the top, you know, young players and the top horn players. And as a matter of fact, in our last recording of that, David Valentin played with us in one of the competitions. So we feed off each other, and I'm very proud of the personnel that has come through the orchestra.
Amazing, amazing. Mr. Piano, Eddie Palmieri, would you play the piano for us, please?
Oh, sure, thank you.
What was that?
That was called La Libertad.
Give me the left hand thing again. Now you were going da 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 da.
Yeah, keep this vamp going. Keep the typical vamp going. Boom beep boom.
Yeah.
Boom beep boom beep beep boom beep
Yeah.
boom beep beep. And this one free.
Going everywhere.
Could do and we did that in a recording in 1965 called Azúcar, and then it just stood with me, and it helps me tremendously, like accompanying myself. So I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, you do. It's fun to listen to too.
Yeah, thank you.
I bet you had a lot of fun being the music director of one of the greatest Latin bands ever.
Tito Puente,
Yeah. How did you pull this off? Now here's this great Latin orchestra. Everybody loves the orchestra, one of the most famous orchestras in the world, and you became the leader of it.
That happened in Guadalupe. I was eating, and Tito came over and says, I have a new idea. The old guys with the young guys. And it's going to be called the Tito Puente Golden Latin Jazz All-Stars. Right? And I'm eating. It's cool. It's great idea, Tito. Would you like to be my musical director? I stopped eating.
Right.
And I told him, but Tito, I've been listening to you since I was 5 years old. He said, don't make me feel older than I am. I said, does it pay more money? He said, no. I said, I'll take the job. And that's how it started.
Oh, wonderful.
It's the most wonderful experience I've ever had in my life.
You play drums.
I started as a drummer. At 5, I was playing congas and bongos. By the time I was 10, I was playing in a band, timbales, because I wanted to be like Tito Puente.
Everyone
wanted to be like Tito Puente. Yeah. I was playing timpanis and snare drum and drums and the whole. But I wanted to meet this girl who played the flute.
There's
and it was
always
Irene.
a girl.
So I said, Irene, can you show me something on the flute? And I wasn't interested in the flute at all. She showed me a scale on the flute. Do re mi fa sol la si do. She gave me a flute. I played it like that. She said, that's incredible. That's impossible. I was pumped up, so I borrowed a flute, and I bought a Herbie Mann record.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Went 3 weeks, and I think I played Coming Home Baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I knew the whole thing without knowing nothing about the flute. But I said, Irene, check this out. Coming Home Baby. She looked at me. She says, I've been taking lessons for 3 years. You come in 3 weeks and do this. Leave me alone.
Did
Never
you lose
talk to me again.
Did you lose a friend?
I lost the girl and I kept the flute.
We're going to have a little fun with you now. Drummer become flautist by chance and decided that this is what I'm going to do forever.
That's right.
Do a little of it now, would you?
Sure.
A little flute?
Here we go.
What do you think? Hey, Dave, you just can't get away from being a percussionist now.
Nope.
What?
And it hurts too.
That was magnificent. Was that good or what?
Thank you. Thank you.
Does it have a name?
That was written by a Puerto Rican composer, Pedro Flores, and that's entitled Obsesión.
You know, I'm going to make a prediction. As the Latin culture in this country grows, on one hand, we'll have the art music. We can play at Carnegie Hall, and people can sit there all polite. On the other hand, up the street at the hotel in the ballroom, the same music, and they dance to it.
Right, right.
It's a way to go. Huh?
And even the Carnegie Hall, we get them up, they get up on the aisles, so
Dance
it's going to
in
be a
the
lot of
aisles,
fun.
huh? It would be a shame if we had Dave Valentine and Eddie Palmieri in the same studio, the same city, with their instruments. Would you like to hear them play a song together?
Okay. What do you say? I think we should go. Should we go?
Get on it.
Here we go again.
Right? I tell you, you guys are members.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Eddie Palmieri, Dave Valentine. Are they great or what? They're going to join me in playing the Legends of Jazz theme now. You want to do that?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it. That was good.